Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is episode 12. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, how's it going?
Well, Joe, I'm celebrating a thrilling overtime victory by the Los Angeles Rams.
That's fantastic.
So first of all, the defense gave up a 87-yard or 83-yard drive with a little less than 2 minutes to go to tie. Well, Seattle came back and tied. I'm yelling and screaming here in my living room, and then of course, Seattle wins the toss. The Seahawks go right down the field. They get a 4th and 1 from the 13, Joe, and the Rams defense responded, stopped Seattle, and then Matthew Stafford, just like he did in the Super Bowl, right down the field, Joe. Like the veteran that he is.
Oh, my God.
Then the Rams needing only a field goal, went for the gauntlet and threw the touchdown pass.
Joby, congratulations to you.
Thank you, Joe. I always enjoy having my Sunday interrupted by you and the podcast, but especially when the Rams win in overtime, we'll be in a good mood.
You know it, especially since my Packers really just did not show up today in the rain. So I'm glad that at least your team won. So
Thank you, Joe. I do appreciate that. I did catch some of that Packers game, and not a good performance, no. But now listen, Detroit's a very good football team.
They're a good team, absolutely.
And Detroit hammered the Rams in week 1.
In overtime. Come on now.
Oh, that's right, Joe. That was close also.
Speaking of overtime victories,
yes,
we are joined by our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week, Eva Canevari of Valley View Girls Soccer. Eva, how we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to go over, this is what Eva did this week. She had the only goal in a 1-0 semifinal victory over Dallas on Wednesday, and then scored the equalizer in the first half and hit a penalty kick in a shootout in the District 2 Class 3A title game against Crestwood. Valley View moves on to the state tournament. Eva, I'm just going to start with, we obviously talked earlier, but as I was so impressed with that Crestwood team last night. What made Crestwood such a formidable opponent for you guys?
They are a quality team, and they were aggressors throughout the whole game. We knew we had to match our physicality the entire time, and they play just good quality soccer. They move the ball very nicely. Their midfield is excellent, and playing a team like that, we knew we had to step up our game and match that.
Eva, let me ask you this. At Valley View, for you and your teammates to win this girls soccer district championship, what did that mean for you and your teammates that you were able to achieve this?
It meant the world. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we came together as a group, and we knew that we had the talent to be able to do this. And we knew it was going to be tough, but knowing the support we had from those on our team, our coaches, the Valley View community, we knew we would be able to pull it off.
Speaking of the support from, obviously the fan base, I kind of just kept cracking up last night when I was on the sideline. Just that pocket of student section that you guys had in the corner, just yelling and screaming at everything. I mean, what is that like during the game? Maybe you don't even notice it during the game, but what is it like having them there supporting you guys?
When we're playing, we don't really notice it, but we know they're there, and we know the Cougar crazies have our back, and we just see them, and you get a sense of pride. Like, you know you're playing for them, you're playing for everyone behind them in the stands, and it's a nice feeling.
Let me ask you, you had some pretty good games this year. You mentioned how early in the year you kind of figured you were going to have a pretty good team, but I would think the victory over Abington Heights early in the season would have been a huge confidence builder for you and your group there. Tell me about those battles with Abington Heights and how you think that may have helped prepare you to make this run and beat Crestwood in the final.
Abington Heights is another quality team. Each player on that field is skilled beyond belief, and playing them was one of our biggest challenges this year, and playing them over and over again was one of the biggest challenges this year. But being in that game and holding our own in that game gave us, like you said, a sense of confidence, and it allowed us to believe in ourselves just a tiny bit more, and having those type of challenges helped us push through in the final.
Yeah, definitely. Eva, it was difficult to kind of zero in on one person last night. You made an impact. Shannon Gillen made an impact. Livia Cholera made an impact. Another person that was just a massive impact, a number of saves, and then turning around and hitting that penalty kick, Amelia Rux, just coming up huge for you guys. Tell me about her performance and how much she has meant to this team.
Amelia is the backbone of our team. I mean, she is one of the most positive people I know, and she never lets anything get to her. And having her as our goalkeeper I'm forever thankful. She is an amazing person, not only a soccer player, but an amazing person. And her saves have saved us. Another word. But even in the Dallas game, she made an incredible save with around 15 seconds left. She came out of the box, and knowing she has that confidence to do that really gives our back line another sense of security.
Eva, let's talk a little bit about your journey to this district championship. You've obviously been playing soccer for quite a long time. Tell me about the time and effort and commitment you've made to this sport, and how this is a real special way for you to finish it off here this year.
I've been playing soccer since I was 4 years old. I started late to the travel leagues. I started in middle school, but when I got there, I started traveling to Allentown for practices since 6th grade. So those drives, that was a lot of time, and that was time taken out of my parents' lives too. And I'm forever thankful for them for being willing to take me out there for that. I think going out there really helped me develop as a soccer player, but also not only as a soccer player, but also as a person. The challenge, the higher level of play, and it was a long challenge, but it's all worth it in the end, knowing it's helped me to where I am now.
Yeah, without a doubt. Eva, let's talk about the mental aspect of the game. You guys, you go down 1-0 early. It's a massive game. Geez, I'm on the sideline and I'm feeling pressure for no reason. I'm just there. But how are you guys able to stay grounded? I noticed that your coaching staff is extremely positive. They were positive throughout. How mentally do you stay grounded within the pressure of the game?
Well, when they scored within the first 5 minutes, and we all trusted each other. We talked earlier before we started the game, and we took note of each of our mental states, and we wanted to keep a level head, positive mindset, and before each game, we do mindful breathing. So when we're standing in our circle there, we all look at each other and we take deep breaths in and then out. And after Crestwood scored their first goal, we did just that. And we all looked at each other. We all knew we trusted each other, and we all knew we were going to come back from that deficit.
So, Eva, listen, one of the great things about winning a district championship, especially on a Saturday evening, is you get a whole day on Sunday to enjoy it, and then you got to start getting ready for the state playoffs, which are right on the horizon here. So tell me, now that you've had a chance to kind of let it soak in a little bit as being a district champion. What is the message to the team now as you get ready for this trip to states?
To keep our intensity up, on Saturday we really displayed a good amount of hustle, and we want to keep that going forward. We also want to recover as much as possible going into the next game, and we're going to keep level head and stay positive. I mean, our like main motto is to stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing from me, just to kind of piggyback off that, obviously you guys had to have the game pushed to Saturday because, you know, your Valley View football team is obviously still succeeding as well. You know, how, like, you know, did you guys probably didn't practice today? I mean, yesterday was a brutal game. You know, is there any sort of effect there that maybe you only have like one day of practice in between? It's probably good if there's a home game too, but is there any effect there?
I don't think it will have a huge effect. I mean, today was our recovery day, so Saturday was a tough game. We're taking today as a break, and we're going to get right back into it tomorrow. I don't think it's going to cause any problems. I actually think it's a benefit for us. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's a positive mindset. And Joby, you're going to have to tell me more often. Remember to breathe. I'm going to take
Yes, of course.
I'm going to take that advice.
Especially when you're under the intense pressure of deadlines.
That's right. That's right. You know.
Even I'm going to ask you, at Valley View now, when you attend school on Monday, do they make a big announcement in the morning that Valley View, congratulations to the girls soccer team for winning the district championship?
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, that's going to be cool, isn't it? How great is that going to be when you're sitting in homeroom and you hear that announcement?
It'll feel nice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Eva, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate the time. I know you're busy prepping for the next game here. That's first round of states is Tuesday. So, you know, be at 6:30. Everyone be sure to go out and support if you can. Eva, good luck the rest of the way at states. I hope you could bring home a medal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Joe, listen, the best part about that interview, and other than her terrific responses, is the fact that you're kind of asking questions because you were on site, Joe. We dusted you off for some soccer coverage on a Saturday night.
Joby, how about that? You know, I'll be honest with you, it had been years to let some people a little bit behind the curtain here. You know, I'm usually the guy doing things in the background. You know, I'll come out during wrestling season and you'll see me on the football field as well. Obviously, we all cover football, but yeah, I haven't covered a soccer game in a very long time. So I was the guy, Joby, and I end up going to this district title game between two awesome teams. You know, we've talked about this, Joby, in other sports, you know, just these classifications, as we had mentioned in football, like the class 3A, but in soccer also, this District 2 class 3A girls soccer field is unbelievable. You'd mentioned Abington Heights, the defending silver medalists in the state. They lose to Crestwood in the semifinals. And Valley View has a battle with Dallas in their semifinal, winning 1-0. And it just all sets up this just massive game. And, you know, let me tell you, I covered a winner. So it was, Joby, it was honestly a blast to witness. When I said I had nerves, like the nerves were there. It was just like, and again, for no reason, I wasn't in the game, but like, you know, there were just so many possessions. Crestwood goes up within, I think it was in the first 2 minutes of the game. And, you know, Valley View again, like, you know, as Eva was talking about, they really kept that positive energy. They never wavered. I really thought, I want to compliment the coaching staff and the bench and the players and the little pocket of student section that was there. It really, without a doubt, keeping that positive energy, that support, it really does help you on the field. And they didn't panic. Eva Eva had a header off a absolutely beautiful pass off a free kick from Shannon Gillen. And, she equalizes the game. It's 1-1. Now we go to the second half. Each team has a chance. Crestwood's knocking on the door. Amelia Rux just kept making just really strong saves. It wasn't just her saves. The defense was also excellent from Valley View. Then Valley View would go on runs, and then it would just keep going back and forth. And as a writer, Joby, like you already get the feeling of where this is going. And like it was the second half, and I'm just like, this is going to penalty kicks. It's just gonna happen, and it goes through, obviously the 2 overtimes. Crestwood's, oh God, her last name's West. I'm completely blanking on her first name, but the goaltender, Daisy West, the goaltender for Crestwood, had some phenomenal saves, a diving save in the second overtime, another diving save, I think either in the second half of the first overtime. And, it goes to penalty kicks. And again, you usually, when you're watching now, again, I don't have high school soccer coverage experience, but when you're in penalty kicks, you usually don't see the goalie come out and take a penalty kick. So, so like Amelia Rux, after making just a great save to take that momentum for Valley View, comes out and kicks in a penalty kick, gets back in her role of goalie, and just a great moment with Livia Collar, a sophomore, just walking up to the ball and just absolutely slamming home the ball into the net top shelf and giving Valley View the victory. It was, now Joby, I know what you're going to say after I say this. I know what you're going to say, but it's like it was a shame that anyone had to lose the game. But Joby,
they do take score for a reason, Joe.
That's right, Joby. Someone has to lose. And unfortunately it was Crestwood, but it was an incredible game, and no one should have to hang their heads after that one, and they shouldn't. It was an absolute battle, and just a great game to witness, honestly, Joby.
Joe, really one of the great aspects of these professions that we have taken on here, and I know a lot of times we get overly criticized, warranted or not.
Right.
But, kind of just following what you're talking about there, I had the wonderful experience of covering 4 championship volleyball games last week. And, you always kind of get taken back. Now, this generation of sports fans won't remember the old ABC Wide World of Sports intro where, you have the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Yep.
And as sports writers, we have to try to capture both the jubilation of the winning side and have kind of the kid gloves and compassion for the team that did not win. So that's always been an interesting challenge for us as writers. And, a lot of times I feel I fall terribly short in missing that point, because you're there visualizing it, and it is just so heartbreaking for the losing team to have to accept their silver medals and then watch a gold medal ceremony for the winning team, and you see the tears of joy on the one side and the tears of defeat on the other, knowing the sacrifices all of these athletes have made to get to that point of a season. There is no tomorrow for the losing team. They don't get to go to the state championships, and then we'll have to relive that all over again. But really, the true goal for any team locally is that district championship, because that's the one that's won in that one single event.
Right.
And boy, your description there of the soccer match, you saw the outstanding play of both teams, and obviously the excitement of that finish. In the volleyball this past week, we had champions. Delaware Valley unfortunately lost to Williamsport in a terrific Class 4A sub-regional final. congratulations to Williamsport, because in speaking with its coach, this is only the 7th year of this program. And this is, I believe, the 3rd year in a row that it had played Delaware Valley in the sub-regional final, and now has finally gotten over the hump and will play in the state tournament. So just an incredible visual there when you see these kids celebrating and they're smiling and their parents are giving them hugs. It was just so overwhelming. And then, of course, you had Delaware Valley for the first time in, I want to say, 15 years, not going to be moving on to the state tournament, but certainly had plenty to be proud of, as you mentioned, being the District 2 champion. Then in 1A that night, we had Mountain View win its first volleyball championship in girls volleyball since 2001. It's a generation ago, Joe.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, just fantastic. And you just saw, I'm certain that there's probably some parents who maybe were around or supported the volleyball program in 2001, maybe not, but just to see that team with Rachel Evans, we know how fantastic she's been all year, and Addison Kilmer. What a great job, Riley Kilmer, of course. What a great job this group of athletes from Mountain View, they have done for that school, putting the girls' athletic programs on the map, not just locally, but certainly statewide, with the girls' basketball runs to the semifinals and then the final last year, and then this great success in volleyball. And then on the second night, Joe, I don't want to steal too much more of your thunder, but listen, Holy Redeemer is a volleyball factory. That is a terrific program there that the coaching staff runs, and much credit to them. They played fantastic 3-0 sweep over a very talented Western Wayne team, which we have kind of highlighted here on the Film Room podcast with Reagan Palmer and Warren Beamer. Both teams played very well, but Holy Redeemer just has an outstanding group of players, and they're so well coached and they execute. They never panicked. And then, Joe, the capper for me in volleyball. Could you imagine if we get to North Pocono versus Berwick, which was the match everyone anticipated was going to be the best match? Might as well save it for last.
Right.
North Pocono is the Lackawanna League champion. Berwick is the Wyoming Valley Conference champion. And I had mentioned to a couple of people there, I said, this is going to be 5 sets.
Right.
I'm guaranteeing it.
Right.
And the ebbs and flows of that championship game, it was probably the best volleyball match. Remember, I cover boys volleyball too, Joe.
That's right.
Volleyball match I've seen in my career covering the sport of high school volleyball. It was just so intense. Both teams are very talented. Both teams are very well coached. They didn't want to give in to each other. No really long runs. It was really back and forth momentum swings, and congratulations to Berwick on a 5-set victory, 3-2 over North Pocono. And again, the girls from North Pocono have nothing to be ashamed of. What they were able to accomplish in the last 2 years. Last year, of course, winning the first district championship since 1982, and then this year reaching the final again. But just fantastic action, Joe, this week. Even though it does get exhausting as a sports writer, people don't realize there is a time element here that we have to dedicate as well, and travel and whatnot. But boy, you couldn't ask for a better week of terrific championship level play.
Without a doubt, Joby. And, like you were saying, let me highlight quickly, as you had mentioned Mountain View volleyball. One of our Athlete of the Week candidates was Rachel Evans. As you talked about, she had 22 assists, including the 1,000th of her career, and 6 kills and 6 digs, and semifinal win over MMI Prep. She then had 26 assists to lead the Lady Eagles to, as you already mentioned, the District 2 title, their first since 2001, in a 3-0 win over Susquehanna in the final. What I wanted to add to, kind of our discussion about, finishing second is that, it's hard in the moment to be like, but I hope when these kids look back, they realize what they accomplished. You mentioned the volleyball teams that we have been talking about all year. North Pocono, Western Wayne. I mean, they've been great all year, and I hope they look back on this proudly when they get a little bit of distance from it. I mean, I guess easier said than done, Joby. I'm still upset losing that one regular season game to Old Forge in 2008. So
you continually bring that up, Joe.
Joby, we're the only team that is lost. So lost to them in Holy Cross history. That hurts me. That hurts me.
That it does, Joe. Listen, at least you do have a piece of history, though.
That's true.
What?
Listen,
You're always going to be in the record books for something, Joe.
That's what we do.
In addition to the 1,500 points you scored in 8th grade.
That's right. Again, 1,464. But yeah, no, it's kind of like the Miami Dolphins, Joby. Every time, we are still the record holders after one of their basketball games. We all have champagne, and that's it.
I'm not so sure you should be the team with the champagne, Joe. I think that Old Ford's team that beat you is.
That is true. No, you're right. You're right. That's fair. That's fair. So anyway, sorry. Let me get us back on track here. That's on me. Joby, you also had some tennis, and we had a state champion, to no surprise, Alana Rosenthal, out of Wyoming Seminary. Just, again, absolutely rolling through the state tournament for her third straight state title in Class 2A. Joby, what do you have to say about the tennis as that wrapped up?
Okay, it wrapped up, Joe. And listen, first I want to congratulate also the Scranton Prep doubles team of Alyssa Wigley and Lily Langle. Look, they lost in the quarterfinals. And again, we go back to not having anything to be ashamed of. What those two young ladies were able to accomplish in their careers as singles players and as doubles players. First, remember, they won the state title as a team last year, reached the state final this year, lost to Lower Moreland. Okay.
Right.
Last year as a doubles team, they lost in the quarterfinals to the two Cadecle sisters from Lower Moreland. And that happened again this year. But the incredible run of success that these players at Prep have had over the last 2 years has just been so memorable. And I can't thank them enough for all the cooperation that they gave me in helping me to cover the sport when I had to via telephone and, throughout the course of the year in the regular seasons. Also, Alana Rosenthal, Joe, let's just kind of congratulate what a monumental effort this was by her. She's the fourth tennis player in state history to win 3 individual singles titles, I believe. And look, her only loss in District 2 to a District 2 opponent was as a freshman in the District 2 championship final against Riverside's Carissa Gigerelli, who was a 4-time District 2 champion and a past state champion. So that's the level of play she brought to the table as early as her freshman year. And she is just such a pleasure to cover. Again, Joe, I don't cover the Wyoming Valley Conference girls tennis. I only get to see her play in the district tournament, in the semifinals and the final. And she couldn't be more helpful in just giving me some information and background stuff that I wouldn't have known because I don't cover her regularly. And, again, congratulations to her. She dominated the first 3 rounds of the state tournament without losing a game, and then won the championship again Saturday afternoon. So congratulations to her for sure.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on what you said about, helping us out, Joby, there were a few times where the tennis was happening at the same time where you were covering football games. So,
you have to get a lot of cooperation, Joe. And the kids and the coaches they have really helped us all out in that regard.
We really appreciate it. Absolutely. So moving forward, we are moving into state tournaments as far as volleyball, boys and girls, soccer. All we have left in field hockey are the Wyoming Valley Conference teams, but the field hockey state playoffs.
With Joe, if history is any indication, and it usually is,
yep.
The teams from District 2 do quite well in the state field hockey tournament. Last year, of course, Lackawanna Trail went to the Class 1A championship game.
Right.
So, these teams are going to be right there in the thick of things here, I think, and certainly are going to give outstanding representation of District 2 in these state events, Joe. But I don't want to take away, you have the rundown there, but we had some pretty good performances on Saturday in cross country as well.
Oh, yeah, we sure did. First, let me just finish. So the first round of the state playoffs in volleyball soccer all Tuesday. We've got Mountain View going, as you had mentioned. They're facing Northeast Bradford. They're hosting Northeast Bradford, sorry. In girls soccer, we've got Holy Redeemer in 1A. We've got Lake Lehman in 2A. Valley View, as I had mentioned, in 3A. They will be hosting a game on Tuesday at 6:30 against Selinsgrove. Wilkes-Barre area is in 4A. They'll be hosting Garnet Valley. In the boys, we've got White Wing Seminary, 1A. 2A, we have Scranton Prep. They will be facing Lewisburg. And we've got Dallas in 3A and Delaware Valley hosting a game in 4A. So that is your soccer. That's what's going to be happening in soccer on Tuesday. So,
Joe, Tuesday's a busy day for a lot of reasons.
Busy, yeah.
For a lot of reasons. Election day.
Sure is. Sure is, Joby.
Isn't Tuesday election day finally?
I didn't know. I didn't realize there was an election, Joby.
Oh yeah. How could you not?
It's a good thing you said something.
I keep getting blitzed by text messages all day today.
We seriously, like, how many texts have you gotten a day? I swear I've gotten 5 text messages a day on politics.
That's a low number for me.
Exactly. It's so
they must realize that I vote religiously at every election.
Joby, I actually got a call because, believe it or not, tomorrow I'm going to a concert. I know
that's shocking.
I know that's shocking, even though I was just at a concert on Halloween. But, I got this phone call and it said Ticketmaster. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh God, is this about my concert tomorrow? And I picked it up and it was a political call.
They're fooling you, Joe. They want you to answer.
They got me so bad. So yes, at least on Tuesday, the calls and texts will stop. Allegedly.
Well, we think, Joe, anyway, but at least we have the distraction of high school athletics to keep us from getting too inundated with election day coverage. But I will miss the annual pizza parties, Joe. That's
yeah. They're not going to send a pizza to all of our houses?
I guess not. I'm not anticipating that, Joe.
Darn. All right, fine.
Back in the old days of the newsroom, Joe, I really used to like election night because it was the one night in particular where our news team really kind of got the idea of what working on deadline was for us on a nightly basis.
Yes.
And if anybody who understands newsrooms is we used to have to get off the floor early on election night. So the intensity of our deadline magnified. And then, of course, the newsroom is all full of energy and, you're watching the results, the closing of the election boxes and everything and the counting of the ballots. And, they're starting to get pumped up at the end of the night. And then, we kind of just got an opportunity to sit back and watch them under what would simulate a Friday night deadline.
Friday night football. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we didn't get pizza, Joby.
we never even got invited.
I never even got invited. So, no, you're absolutely right. So, Joby, let's move on to what you were talking about. We did have a weekend across country at states, mm-hmm. and we had some state medalists.
10, I believe, right, Joe?
Yeah, 10. In Class 1A girls, Kendall Wisegold finished 11th of Elk Lake, and Lakeland's Emily Black finished 16th. You have to finish in the top 25 to get a state medal, so they were both state medalists. In Class 2A, Madison Hedglin finished 4th. That's a great rebound for her after falling ill during last year's race, or at least before last year's race. She gave it a go, and it just wasn't going to happen. So congratulations to her for getting back on track. 4th is awesome. Sarah Williams of Dallas finished 19th. In Class 3A, really bad luck for Anna Pusilowski. She missed a medal by 1 place after I think they've reviewed are there challenge flags in cross country now? She originally finished 25th, and then after further review was ruled to finish in 26th. So she barely missed a medal in Class 3A, but she's only a junior and I'm sure she'll come back strong next year. And obviously Joby has a big track season in front of her. Class 1A boys, Elk Lake, they did very, very well. Cody Adams finished fourth. Kendall Jones, our athlete of the week last week, finished fifth. Lorenzo Christian of Montrose finished 11th. Also of Elk Lake, Parker Upright finished 15th. Riverside's Michael Schimmelfenig, sorry if I blew that pronunciation, but he finished 20th. And Lakeland's Henry Decker finished 24th, Class 1A boys. We didn't have any medalists in 2A or 3A from District 2, but great job by all of them. And, obviously, Joby, you'll see some of them come track season.
Yeah, Joe, I really do. One of the times of the fall where I kind of just take a deep breath and I do kind of scan through the cross country results throughout the year, because I do know a lot of these athletes, because I will pick them up in the spring.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a fantastic job. Look, the athletes got great weather for running on Saturday, and they took advantage of it. Anybody who's ever seen the state cross country championships, and Scott Walsh is a regular down there. I believe he has a permanent room at the hotel.
America's best inn.
Right. And so he's been doing this now, I want to say, for 20, 25 years with the cross country. And there is a huge pack of runners at the start of the cross country race at States. And, of course, it's not a marathon, but it certainly simulates a very packed running area. And, sometimes you just kind of get yourself in a weird position early in the race. And with cross country, you're not just battling the elements of a long distance race, but also the grueling terrain you have to kind of wiggle your way through. So, our kids did great as usual. 10 state medals is just a great fall for all the cross country kids. And I really do look forward to seeing some of these athletes in the spring during the track and field season.
Absolutely, Joby. I should have covered this when I got to the soccer, but just a couple more performances that were under consideration for Athlete of the Week. Daniel Polonis of Scranton Prep, he assisted both goals in the Cavaliers' 2-1 win over Dunmore in the District 2 Class 2A soccer championship game. He also had a hat trick and 2 assists in the Cavs' 6-0 win over Lakeland in the semifinals. Great performance from him. This can probably segue us to football, but Sean Owens of Western Wayne had a hell of a game. I guess no surprise, but in a battle, Western Wayne's 7-0 victory over Berwick in the District 2 Class 3A quarterfinals. He scored the game's only touchdown early in the fourth quarter. He had a fumble recovery, and he had 2 interceptions, including the game clincher with 55 seconds left to advance the Wildcats to the semifinals. So those are just 2 other great performances from the week. Joby, maybe we could start there. That was, I think obviously next week will be like, we're going to have some really, really dynamite games, but just to quickly look, I thought that this was one of the better games of the week. Obviously, it was only 7-0, and Berwick really finding itself in the second half of the season with Tymere Wilkinson putting him in the backfield. What'd you think of Western Wayne's performance this week?
Well, Joe, our Lackawanna Football Conference awards are coming out in the paper on Tuesday, so I don't want to give too much away, but you certainly hit the nail on the head with this one. I was at the Mid-Valley Lake Lehman game in Class 3A, and all that the buzz was that Western Wayne Berwick game. And, look, Joe, Berwick I know it's not the Berwick from the late 90s, okay, the late 80s to the 90s, where Berwick won 6 state championships, okay, but it is a program that is rebuilding its tradition, okay, with C.J. Curry as the head coach. Those kids are tough kids. And, the kids at Western Wayne are tough kids. And this was a physical battle. And, yeah, Sean Owens, he has a propensity of coming up big in big spots. And he did that again for Western Wayne. And boy, in 3A, we really have some outstanding matchups this week for the semifinals. Now, what is unusual, it held court. Okay, Joe, what I mean by that is it was chalk. Number 1 seed Scranton Prep will host number 4 seed Mid-Valley. And number 2 seed Western Wayne will host number 3 seed Wyoming area. Now, what's interesting is that would have been the semifinals anyway, based upon the power ratings, obviously.
Right.
But those teams all had to endure a game this week, and I think Western Wayne had to endure the toughest.
Yeah.
And so, how does that affect them moving forward? But without getting too far ahead of ourselves here, Joe, terrific game by Western Wayne to get the win, hard-earned 7-0 in that one. Mid-Valley, another Herculean effort by Jacob Lesher, 283 yards rushing, 60 yards receiving. He had an interception return for a touchdown. He did just about everything but hand out concessions at halftime. He was just terrific, and Mid-Valley advanced to the semifinals with what ended up being a pretty hard-fought victory over Lake Lehman, which gave Mid-Valley an awful lot to handle after it had built a 28-3 lead. So Mid-Valley will move on and get a rematch with Scranton Prep. Scranton Prep pretty easily over Tunkhannock, which was expected because Scranton Prep is the number 1 team in the area. And then you had Wyoming area with a pretty impressive performance over what we thought was a really quality defense at Carbondale area.
Right.
And Wyoming area just ran all over her. It was just an incredible performance by the Warriors. So 4 really, really good teams in action in that 3A semifinal, which, boy, if those could have been the games played this past weekend, so we had a full championship slate of games, it would have been better for us. But boy, those were 2 really good games in 3A.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it a little bit, Joby, because you know what's kind of funny in 3A? These are rematches. I covered both of them earlier in the season.
Joe, yeah, you'll have to go back and why don't you write the previews?
Maybe
Joe?
I should.
Suggesting?
Maybe wait a minute. Let me walk that back.
I just want to get a little bit of help every now and then, Joe.
Let me walk that back. What have I done? What have I done to myself? But no, Joby, you know, the first matchup between Scranton Prep and Mid-Valley, you know, Scranton Prep wins 28-0. You know, it's not to say I would obviously still definitely favor Scranton Prep, but I would be interested to see at this point what kind of a game Mid-Valley can give Scranton, considering, you know, how they finished the season. Lesher looks like he's at full strength now. You know, that's going to be an interesting game. If, you know, obviously Mid-Valley's really they're going to have to stop him on defense. They've showed a lot of life on defense in their last few games, obviously. So we'll see what happens there. The one I'm really interested in is, as you mentioned, that Western Wayne, Wyoming area rematch, which again will be at Western Wayne again, which is where the first one was at. So it's really, what's interesting is that when Randy Spencer, the coach of Wyoming area, was in his huddle after the game, he said, I think I've mentioned it, he said, we could face these guys down the road. We'll have another shot at them. And here we are. And this is it. This is going to be a great game. I don't know. I don't even know which way I'm going to pick it yet, Joby, but you know, Wyoming area is playing great. Again, that's their only loss of the season is to Western Wayne. So this is going to be a really interesting game, and it should be pretty exciting. I don't know who's covering it yet, but it should be a pretty exciting game for sure, and a pretty exciting semifinals overall.
Joe, 3 of the 4 teams with 10-1 records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That's not bad.
Right? It's not bad. Joby, I want to talk about one of the games entering last week that you were at that I was really interested in to see what Dunmore could do against Susquehanna the second time around. And they're able to get the victory. pretty convincingly after kind of a wonky fourth quarter, Joby. I mean, you could speak more to that than I can, but following your tweets, I was just like, what's happening here? But yeah, talk about that game and talk about Dunmore a little bit.
Joe, you cannot put a price tag on tradition. I'm sorry. I just think those kids at Dunmore are raised with, if you're a football player in that borough or in that program, you are raised to be a champion. Or at the very least, you're giving your best effort to defend that championship. And I kid you not, Dunmore came out Saturday afternoon game, just like it did the last time it played Susquehanna, jumped out to a quick 14-0 lead. Now, this is Susquehanna and this coaching staff's first real venture into the District 2, the heat of the District 2 playoffs, where, it was the home team, number 2 seed. It had beaten this team earlier in the year. All new experiences for these two. Really took a gamble going for 4th and 10 on the opening possession in their own territory.
Wow.
Didn't get it. And then that created a short field for Dunmore, and Dunmore scored a touchdown. Then had a turnover on the next possession. Dunmore turned that into a touchdown. So now it's 14-0. And Susquehanna, to its credit, it came back a little bit, showed some heart, showed some fight, just like it did the first time around, and scored a touchdown. Had a real nice drive at the end of the half inside the 5-yard line, but couldn't get the clock stopped, and were unable to punch one in there that would have cut it to 21-14 or 12, whichever. And Dunmore really lowered the boom in the third quarter, scored 26 points, took advantage of some really good field position again in the second half, and played like this was the team that was the defending District 2 Class 2A champions. Had a little bit of a chip on its shoulder after a couple of very lopsided defeats to Honesdale and Western Wayne in the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yep.
And here we are now. I believe Dunmore will be playing in the district championship game for the 20th time or whatever it is. And we'll get a chance at another rematch with a team that beat it in the regular season, that being Riverside, the number 1 seed. Also 10-1 on the season, by the way. Yep. Riverside with an impressive performance against Lakeland, even without some of the top weapons. And Chase Tedonio, again, terrific game. He's been a really, really good leader for this team. Interesting thing about him, Joe, he's going to end up being, he's up over 5,000 yards career passing in his career. He was a running back.
Right.
He was converted to a quarterback because they needed somebody to play quarterback, and he volunteered. What a terrific career he's had. He's just been outstanding for Riverside, and I think as long as you got him at the helm, you're going to have some success. And so that sets up this week's game, Joe. As I mentioned, Riverside trying to win its first district championship since 2010. And do you know what team Riverside beat in 2010 to win that district championship?
Could it have been Dunmore?
It sure was Dunmore. Joe, do a little research. It was in the Class A that year. It was a single A, and Riverside, of course, went to the state final that year and lost to Clairton. So a lot of history involved in this matchup with Riverside and Dunmore, not to mention the most recent being a Riverside 16-3 victory in week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be a great game to look at. Like you said, you can't, obviously I think Riverside's gonna be favored in that game, but the last district title game, Dunmore was favored against Riverside, and Riverside gave them all they could handle. So you never know what's going to happen in these games.
Yeah, Joe, listen, you mentioned the 3, I'm going to have a little notebook in the paper tomorrow. The 3 district championship games that we're going to be having in Class 5A, Class 2A, and Class 4A are rematches of the games from last year.
Exactly, Joby. And, one of those rematches will be Abington Heights, Delaware Valley. Joby, I know this isn't why people tune into this, but I have to just tell you about when it comes to the wind tunnel at Abington Heights, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It gets brisk at the New Abington Heights Athletic Complex.
It does. I'm there. My notes, all the papers I have are trying to blow away, get off my clipboard, and it's cold. It's, oh my God, what a mess. But quickly to actually, talk about football. Abington Heights took care of business against Wyoming Valley West team. Honestly, credit to Valley West. That's an 0-10 team coming into this game, and I ended up on their sideline covering the game, and the energy, the positivity on the sideline. Kudos to the coaching staff and the players for keeping that team together in a year where they didn't even win a game. So good for them. But Abington Heights wins that game 35-0. Their defense was great. And, it sets up this matchup with Delaware Valley, a matchup that Delaware Valley won in the regular season on a Logan Olsemer touchdown run with 16 seconds left in the game that gave Delaware Valley a 35-28 victory. This is another toss-up, Joey. It's another great game.
Joe, incidentally, I covered that Delaware.
You did, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And absolutely. I will be fortunate enough Saturday to not be at the wind tunnel of the Abington Heights.
It's true.
As the title game will be played at Comet Stadium on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. So, boy, I'm looking forward to this rematch, Joe. This was a heck of a football game the first time around. And, the weather looks like it's going to cooperate, so we may have another one. This is going to be a good battle, and a credit to both teams. Had some adversity at different times of the season, and really kind of, got their stuff together here late, and we're going to see how this all plays out. But it's going to be a good football game for the championship in Class 5A. Don't forget, Joe, Delaware Valley has won 8 straight district championships in football.
Joe, but that's a lot. That's a long streak.
Yep. That's pretty good consistency.
It's pretty good, right? So another great game. These teams have battled over the years. The District 4 Class 4A championship game will be between Dallas, who is the defending silver medalist in Class 4A in the state, and Valley View, who has not lost the game since their first game of the season against Scranton Prep. Also, to add to it, Dallas has won 8 straight after losing their first 3. So this is another game. Just to give my 2 cents to seeing Valley View, is just they always seem to figure out a way to win, and that has happened 10 straight times. Obviously, some of the games have been very close, but they win the close games. But also, this is a Dallas team that has really, really put it together here. This again, Joby, this is going to be another great game.
It really is, Joe. And again, Valley View has a lot of motivation coming into this game. Last year in the district championship game, which Dallas won 21-18, that game would have been in overtime, but Valley View could not get an extra point. So right. This is going to be terrific football. These 2 programs have a great rivalry. They've played a number of times in district championship games, going all the way back to 1999, I think. And then don't forget, Joe, in 1992 and 1993, 92 Valley View won the state championship in 2A. 93 Dallas won the state championship in Class 2A. And interestingly enough, when Valley View won in 1992, it had to beat Dallas just to get into the state playoffs. So this is a rivalry. Make no mistakes about it. It's not necessarily Valley View and Scranton Prep, or Valley View and Abington Heights, or Abington Heights and Scranton Prep, but it is a rivalry nonetheless between the Wyoming Valley Conference and the Lackawanna football.
Absolutely, Joby. I think we've covered all of them except for Lackawanna Trail is hosting Tri-Valley out of District 11 for the Class 1A sub-regional championship game. Lackawanna Trail's rolling. I don't know much about Tri-Valley, I admit, but it's, at this point it's hard to go against a Lackawanna Trail team that's just been absolutely rolling.
Well, Joe, listen, Lackawanna Trail is playing very good football and has played very good football since that Western Wayne loss in week 2. Okay. These 2 teams do have a little bit of a history, have played a couple of times in the state playoffs before. That Lackawanna Trail has won a couple of those matchups. But again, as we stated last week on the Film Room podcast, not knowing enough about these teams out of District 11 does make it a little bit of a challenge for the coaching staff and the players. In the other games, we have these rematches where there's a lot of familiarity with each other. So the scouting doesn't have to be so laborious this week. But for Lackawanna Trail, the coaches really have to burn the midnight oil and get themselves ready to play an opponent they haven't seen. So I still think it's going to be a good football game because of the reputation of teams out of District 11. But yes, Coach Steve Jervis, who I also want to congratulate for receiving the Scranton Chapter of Officials Sportsmanship Award of the Lou Palazzi Award last week. So they've done a great job at Lackawanna Trail, and I think got off on the right foot with a pretty convincing win over Nativity BVM in the first round.
For sure, Joby. And so I think that covers it for high school. Joby, is there anything you want to add to what we've covered?
Just real quick, Joe, and I don't want to kind of harp on, I know we're short on time here, but boy, what a disappointing loss for Penn State fans.
That's where I was going.
No, but Bill, listen, I was ready to bank money on this one. I don't want to, dump on anybody. Obviously, football's played in between the lines. You and I talk about this all the time. It's not on paper. It's not in the press. It's not, done online. But I truly thought after seeing both teams play, Penn State and Ohio State, with the game being at Penn State, 110,000 fans, I just thought Penn State had more talent this year than Ohio State. And Joe, sometimes you're just jinxed against an opponent.
Oh yeah, I know that. Being a Michigan fan for years, Ohio State used to beat us until we finally broke through. But you're absolutely right, Joby. 2 times Penn State had the ball inside the 5-yard line, and they got 0 points out of it. I mean, I'm going to take it a step further. They go get Andel Kotelnicki so he could provide some creativity to the offense. And he has so far this year, but for some reason, when he gets to the 3, the first time down, dials up a fade that honestly the Ohio State player made an incredible interception on. I don't know. That was just a great play, but I don't think either of us like the fade in that situation. The second time, obviously, end of the game, we were just gonna, Penn State just runs, Katron Allen into the line. They keep doing this like lineman in motion thing that just wasn't working. And, to go away from Tyler Warren, who's been your best weapon, it's just, these are the things that happen year after year after year against this Ohio State team. And it's gotta be frustrating to be a Penn State fan, just seeing this year after year, just these, everything just never shakes their way. They don't make the right call in situations. It's brutal. It's brutal, Joey.
It's what makes ultimately the victory over a rival so much more enjoyable, but Penn State's got to wait another year. But who knows? Maybe Penn State will get another shot at Ohio State, much like we continually get here in the high school football playoffs. So
that's right.
It's not lost, Joe. Penn State only fell to number 6.
Well, that's right. And there's a 12-team playoff now, Joby. So
that's right, Joey.
Plenty of opportunity. And Michigan got blasted by Oregon. So
now you can just watch an enjoyment now.
That's exactly. Nothing matters anymore. So we're all good. All right, Joby, I think I'm going to wrap things up here. First of all, I want to thank Eva Canevari. She's did the Athlete of the Week interview with me earlier today, which will appear in Tuesday's paper and online as well. And then obviously hours later, she joined us here on this show. So Eva, thanks so much for taking the time today to help us out here and give us a few great interviews. Joby, Game Face will be out on Friday.
I have a lot of work to do.
You have a lot of work to do. You've got volleyball this week. There's